Early signing day here on Rocky Top as the 2026 class for Tennessee football starts to come into form. This is Ryan Sylvia. I am Rick Butler for Rocky Top Insider. Just got done with the Josh Heupel press conference where, I don't know, I'd say he talked for about 10 or 11 minutes or so, breaking down different aspects of this 2020 class, talking about the class overall as a whole and obviously certain players as well. But let's kind of start with the big news that happened just 30 seconds before the press conference starts. 2026 highly prized athlete Legend Bay ends up reflipping back to Tennessee. Originally a Tennessee commit, then then decommits and recommits to Ohio State. Then here on signing day flips back to Tennessee. It's a huge win for the Vols.
Yeah, it's huge too when you look at Sylvia, who right now he projects to be an athlete. He can play both sides of the ball, but projects to maybe get a start on offense at wide receiver. Now he's getting pushes from outside areas like Utah and Michigan, and he's yet to be signed anywhere. So not saying he's not in the boat, but he's not fully in the boat, officially in the boat yet. So
he's not rowing yet.
What are you going to do when that's kind of up in the air right now? You go out and you take advantage of Ohio State's offensive coordinator getting the job at USF, and you go get Legend Bay back, who they really like this entire process. And I think that is kind of the big news of the day so far. That's good news for Tennessee. It means that your 5 stars, all 3 didn't flip. You have Faison, Brandon, Tristan Keys, and Gabe Osenda all signed and in the boat officially.
Yep.
So far for Tennessee, no official bad news, and so far good news as well, because you also were able to flip Carter Gooden, defensive lineman from UCLA, right before that press conference started. You got, I assume you pronounce it Nuke Simmons, N-U-K. We'll have to figure that one out.
I imagine so.
But you land him. It's been just a strong start to the day, really, for Tennessee as far as locking in the guys that you have in the class right now, but then also getting some guys from outside to sign as well.
Yeah, business as normal for Tennessee. But as you mentioned, yesterday, which was, I guess, Tuesday, we started hearing some reports from different publications and different outlets that, hey, Tennessee could have some surprises in store. They could be pulling a rabbit out of the hat, and they certainly did so with Legend Bay. We are also awaiting a potential flip from potentially J.J. Finch, who is the Alabama defensive line prospect. That's coming up later tonight, Wednesday night around 6 o'clock p.m. So obviously Tennessee could have some more surprises in store, but certainly starting the day off, or maybe it wasn't really starting, but at some point in the day, getting Legend Bay, that is a huge one for the Vols. Also, if you remember going back to the summer, he did have some off-season workouts with Joe Milton
Cowboys
back in Texas. So maybe at least he can catch a fastball. We didn't see any video, but I would imagine that if he was catching passes from Joe Milton, he can probably catch the heater if it comes his way. Speaking of wide receivers, though, there's a lot to like about this Tennessee wide receiver class with Tristan Keys and Tyreek King, the local prospect from Knoxville Catholic. I was watching a video earlier today from 5 Star Preps. He was talking about his excitement, and he's really fired up. He believes that there's a lot in store for what this signing class, potentially what the wide receivers can bring to the table for Tennessee.
Yeah, King expected to be a slot guy, and obviously Tennessee's had a lot of success at that position. You look to this year with Braylon Staley and then Jalen Hyatt, a Blitnikoff winner at the position. He's got the build of one of those speedy guys. Like it's a similar build in some ways to, I guess, Braylon Staley, where you're not the tallest guy in the world. He's listed at 5'11", 175, but he's got lightning speed, and that'll obviously play well in this offense. And then when you pair that up with the Legend Bay, when you pair that up with the TK Keys, who's the #1 ranked receiver in the entire country on 247 top 10 recruit, it's a really good wide receiver class. And I think it was really necessary for them to do that too. You look at the numbers they had in the room this year, it was just way too thin. And so you're losing Chris Brazzell to the draft. You're theoretically returning Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. Then you have those 2 freshmen, and Travis Smith Jr. and Rodarius Jackson, and another guy in the slot, and Joakim Dotson. Maybe Amari figures in there somehow. We'll see what he does after he just kind of wasn't involved this year. But you just weren't there where the numbers needed to be.
Right.
Now you're bringing in a bunch of guys that have the ability to play a freshman. You pair them up with those guys that were freshmen last year that made impacts when they could. It's starting to feel like that room's starting to kind of come back together numbers-wise where it needs to be.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, when you talk about college football, you can talk about any position. There's obviously going to be a caveat as to retention when it comes to these players' careers down the road. But as of now, you take things at face value. And at face value, Tennessee's got a great receiving room going forward. And yes, it's going to be a little bit young. And yes, guys are going to have to step up. But I think exactly what you're talking about with the depth, getting some of those second-year guys, obviously a little bit more reps in their system, bringing back some of the impact players from this year, and then be able to combine that with some really talented recruits that Tennessee's got in this 2026 signing class. Pretty nice overall. All right, anything else stand out to you about just sort of what Tennessee's been able to put pen to paper with so far today?
I think you have to at least quickly talk about Faison Brandon, the now #2 receiver in the class on 247.
Quarterback.
Yes, quarterback. Sorry, #2 quarterback in the class on 247. was number 1 for a while, and then recently in the rankings refresh lost his spot to Henderson over at Houston, but still a guy that obviously they're really excited about, and he's been one of the first guys in the boat. He reminds you, maybe it's a little biased because of where he's from in North Carolina, but reminds you of some ways in Hendon Hooker, who's obviously a guy that Tennessee fans like a lot. So that's someone that obviously headlines the class, and I think that fans and that coaching staff are really excited to see get to campus.
Yeah, 6'4", 206 pounds, obviously just very well built. And man, you look at some of these guys and their builds already before coming into a weight room like the one that we're standing across from right now. That can do wonders for some of these players as they really get their collegiate career started. And talking about getting your collegiate career started, we're looking at a piece of paper right now that doesn't have every player that's been on the national signing class roster so far, but we do have a lot of them. And there's a lot of stars by a lot of players' names, which indicates that they are going to be early enrollees. You wrote about it over on RockyTopInsider.com, where you can go and find a full list. But do you remember what the number was out of the list that we saw here?
It's 3 that are not going to be early enrolling so far. And now that doesn't include legend Bane Carter Gooden so far, who just signed right after this paper got printed. And then we'll see. I mean, Josh Heupel teased up there at the podium, like, hey, stay tuned. Later today should be some more good news coming. You mentioned J.J. Finch from Alabama. That's a potential guy. Some other names to, I guess, keep in mind could be an Amari Latimer from Wisconsin, who Tennessee and a few other schools have still been in the mix where he's still yet to sign with Wisconsin. And then you have edge rusher Jordan Carter. I believe he was the Texas A&M decommit recently, who's been getting pulled from a couple different directions. So with all that said, so far it's 3 that are not listed as early enrollees, and it's usually about that number. I think last year it was 2 that weren't early enrolled, but it's just such an advantage to get to campus early. Doesn't mean you can't make an impact if you're not at campus early, but it's definitely an advantage to be able to go through spring practice, get here for the bowl game and do all those different types of things to get yourself ready. Your piece of paper is all marked up. You've been doodling on this. I mean, it looks like it's been through the ringer with notes and everything. The only notes are the 2 guys that signed that are on the paper, and then a couple targets that maybe
well done.
Hinting at.
Well done.
Just didn't want to forget some names.
He's locked in right here. All right. Before speaking about forget, would we forget anything else before we get out of here?
I think that's about it. I mean, it felt like a kind of typical Josh Heupel signing class where you're really talented at the skill positions. You get a bunch of guys on the defensive line, on the offensive line that you like as well, but then also at DB. Zay Anderson's a guy that's not signed yet, but still feels like no indication that he's going to flip, just maybe a late signature coming in, and he's one of the better corners in the class. So you're just adding talent everywhere. It's probably statistically, when it's all said and done, going to be the highest ranked class for Josh Heupel at Tennessee. So it's a very strong next step to take. Now he's got to parlay it with the transfer class that we'll figure out more about in about a month. Again, there's still a couple of players that are not on this roster that Tennessee gave us here today. We're talking about Legend Bay. We're talking about Carter Gooden, and potentially some of these other guys later on, like Zay and like J.J. Finch. But as of now, what we have here is we're recording this by position. You have 7 players on offense. That's 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 3 offensive linemen. You have 13 players on defense, 5 defensive backs, 6 defensive linemen, and 2 linebackers. And then Tennessee went out and got themselves a punter today from Australia. So maybe the Jackson Ross pipeline continues. But again, that's not everybody. Stay tuned to RockyTopInsider.com as we continue updating everybody. We have live updates right there on the homepage in case you're watching this on Wednesday. You can go and see everything that is happening with this Tennessee football 2026 signing class. This is Ryan Sylvia, and I'm Rick Butler for Rocky Top Insider. Early signing day on Rocky Top never disappoints.